I'm Tony Jaa from Thailand and play Jaa. This is really important for me.
Tony Jaa burst onto the scene like a force of nature. His raw power, breathtaking stunts, and death-defying fights left audiences in awe. He wasn't just a fighter. He was a living, breathing action spectacle, a man who made gravity look like a suggestion. But then, something changed. At the peak of his meteoric rise, he vanished. The man who seemed unstoppable suddenly walked away, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions. Was it fame's crushing weight? Industry betrayal? A shocking personal decision? His career, once poised for Hollywood greatness, took a turn that no one saw coming. What happened to Tony Jaa, the legend who defied physics but couldn't escape fate? The truth is far more heartbreaking than you think. Stick around, because this story will change how you see him forever. Humble beginnings. To stuntman Tony Jaa, born Thachakorn, Yerum, grew up in the rural province of Surin, Thailand, where life revolved around farming and tradition. His parents, Ren Saipech and Thongdi Yerum, were rice farmers, instilling in him the values of hard work and perseverance. However, Tony's ambitions stretched far beyond the rice fields. From a young age, he was mesmerized by the martial arts legends he saw at temple fairs: Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, and Jet Li. Their movement, power, and storytelling ignited a dream within him. He didn't just want to watch. He wanted to embody their art. Unlike most children who idolized action heroes from a distance, Tony actively trained himself to mimic their moves. He practiced tirelessly in the fields, repeating kicks, punches, and acrobatics until they felt second nature. For him, martial arts was more than just combat. It was an artistic expression of discipline and precision. His training formally began at age 10 when he started learning Muay Thai at a local temple under the guidance of traditional masters. Lacking fancy facilities, he relied on sheer determination, developing the endurance and skill that would later define his career. As he grew older, he began competing in local Muay Thai matches, earning recognition within his community, but he had no desire to follow the traditional path of a fighter. Instead, he saw an opportunity to merge his martial arts expertise with film, just like his idols before him. Tony's entrance into the world of cinema happened when he caught the eye of Pana Ritikrai, a mythical stunt coordinator and director. He invited Tony to join his stunt team, realizing that Tony was gifted with untrained raw talent complemented by unyielding tenacity, which became a watershed moment in Tony's life. Now keen to prove himself, Tony dedicated the next 14 years of his life as a stuntman, fading into dangerous, demanding work with little appreciation. He executed breathtaking stunts, including doubling for big actors and jumping onto the back of an elephant for a commercial. Every stunt pushed his limits. He was, however, taking them in his stride, honing his movements as preparation for his major break. Tony's stunt experience was not limited to physical endurance, but an education in filmmaking. Under Pana's tutelage, he learned a wide variety of martial arts, from Muay Thai to Taekwondo to Judo and Aikido. He also learned how to make action cinematic. Tony had been groomed for screen performance from childhood, unlike many martial artists making the conversion later in life. He learned how to marry realism with the artifice of action choreography. His equally fearless approach to high-stakes stunts without wires and CGI set him apart from the rest, earning him a truly rare combination of talents in the industry. Then, after years of pushing his limits behind the scenes, Tony Jaa finally got his moment in the spotlight, and when it arrived, it was nothing short of explosive. The rise to global fame. The release of Ong-Bak, Muay Thai Warrior in 2003 marked the turning point in Tony Jaa's career, launching him from an unknown stuntman to an international martial arts sensation. The film was unlike anything audiences had seen before. Tony performed every stunt himself, without the aid of CGI, wires, or doubles. His gravity-defying acrobatics, rapid-fire strikes, and bone-crushing knee and elbow techniques captivated action fans worldwide. The raw, visceral energy of Ong-Bak set a new standard for martial arts films, earning Tony widespread acclaim. He was no longer just a promising fighter or a dedicated stuntman. He had become a leading figure in the new wave of action cinema. Following the success of Ong-Bak, Tony cemented his reputation with his next major film, Tom Yum-Goong, released as The Protector in the US in 2005. This time, he pushed the boundaries of action choreography even further, showcasing a unique Muay Thai style inspired by elephant movements. The film's most iconic moment, a breathtaking 4-minute continuous fight sequence through a restaurant, became legendary among martial arts fans. This long-take fight scene demonstrated not only Tony's physical prowess, but also his ability to sustain high-impact action in a single uninterrupted shot. His performances were redefining what audiences expected from action films, influencing even established stars like Donnie Yen, who later admitted that Tony's work pushed him to elevate his own fight scenes. With global popularity on the rise, comparisons between him and martial arts legends like Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, and Jet Li were considered inevitable. Many believed that Tony was the next sexiest action star who could bring martial arts cinema to a new era. His explosive style would draw from his roots in traditional Muay Thai and would bring a new and gritty realism to fight choreography, in stark contrast to the highly stylized, wire-heavy action passions of Hong Kong cinema. Even Hollywood took notice, with directors and producers seeking to take his talents to the global stage. Jackie Chan himself recognized Tony's incredible skill and wanted him in Rush Hour 3, a move that would have further opened Anthony up to Western cinema. Scheduling conflicts with Ong-Bak 2, however, forced him to skip the opportunity. Behind-the-scenes struggles. At the height of his success, Tony Jaa's career seemed unstoppable, but behind the scenes, trouble was brewing. His relationship with his mentor, Pana Ritikrai, the man who had discovered and trained him, began to fracture. Creative differences arose, leading to tensions that affected their work together. One of the most significant consequences of their strained relationship was the cancellation of a highly anticipated project, Sword. While neither Tony nor Pana openly discussed their falling out, the cracks were evident, and the impact was felt in Tony's career trajectory. For someone who had built his success alongside his mentor, this rift was a major turning point that would influence his next moves in the industry. Adding to his struggles, Tony found himself increasingly constrained by his contract with Sahamongkol Film, the Thai studio that had managed his career from the beginning. The studio controlled every aspect of his professional life: his schedule, his film roles, and even his earnings. While the success of Ong-Bak and Tom Yum-Goong had made Tony a household name, the financial and creative rewards didn't fully belong to him. His movements were restricted, and despite being one of the most in-demand martial artists of his generation, he had little say in the direction of his own career. This controlling grip by the studio made it difficult for him to explore opportunities outside of Thailand, even when Hollywood started knocking on his door. The pressures had started cracking under the stress. The production of Ong-Bak 2 got so heavy that it was becoming intolerable. He was acting in that film, and now he even had to take on the added pattern of being its director, leaving his already burning schedule in ashes. But the production spiraled out of control even faster. It reported that Tony disappeared from the set and went missing for weeks, leading to much eyebrow-raising gossip that he had undergone a breakdown. However, even that was just a faint touch at the truth. Feeling trapped and exhausted, he took refuge in a Buddhist monastery, stepping away from the industry for the moment, seeking inner peace. That sudden hiatus wreaked havoc at the studio's end, trying to ensure the wrap-up of the movie, resulting in delays and further complications. Even back in the industry, his woes were not yet over. Tony was under contract with Saha-Mongkol Film, which was an anchor tying him down and not allowing him to pursue bigger international projects. In 2013, he decided to take a plunge and gain his freedom. But the studio would not allow their stars to fly away so easily. They tried to block him from doing Fast and Furious 7 and demanded as much as $50 million for his release. The whole legal and financial mess trapped him in a very tight corner and, as a result, has not worked in a Thai production since. Although he did manage to get into Western films, by then the damage was done. His career momentum had suffered, and he was never able to quite reclaim that magic that made him a global sensation. With mounting pressure and his career at a breaking point, Tony Jaa made a drastic decision that left fans and the industry in shock. He walked away from it all. The disappearance, becoming a monk. At the peak of his career, Tony Jaa made a shocking decision that left fans and the film industry stunned. He disappeared from the spotlight and became a Buddhist monk. In 2010, after years of grueling physical work, relentless industry pressure, and a contentious battle with Saha-Mongkol Film, he retreated from the world of cinema and sought refuge in the peaceful solitude of a temple. For a time, the man who had once dazzled audiences with his gravity-defying stunts and bone-crushing strikes had traded in action sequences for meditation and spiritual reflection. The abrupt decision fueled speculation. Some claimed he had suffered a mental breakdown, while others believed he was trying to escape the legal and financial constraints of his contract. However, becoming a monk was not an unusual move in Thai culture. Temporary ordination into the Buddhist monastic life is a common tradition, often seen as a way for men to seek clarity and honor their families. For Tony, it seemed to be both a personal and spiritual reset. After years of being controlled by the film industry, the temple offered him a rare sense of freedom, away from contracts, fame, and expectations. During this period, he followed a strict routine of meditation, prayer, and simple living, embracing the principles of Buddhism. While he never explicitly stated that his decision was driven by the hardships he faced in the industry, many believe that his struggles with Saha-Mongkol Film and the pressures of stardom played a major role in his retreat. The disappearance actually brought a void to the world of martial arts. It sharpened the edge of fans' demands for even more breathless action and perhaps deeper rumors concerning his whereabouts. Some have long maintained that he quit acting for good, while others insisted he was preparing for a comeback. Meanwhile, the Thai film industry moved on, and that great momentum he gained with Ong-Bak and Tom Yum-gung began to fade. Hollywood opportunities that could have propelled him forward were lost, and other martial arts stars like Donnie Yen and Iko Uwais stepped into the spotlight in his absence. This genre had evolved, and Tony's retreat from the industry risked leaving him behind. Finally, after a long dose of introspection, Tony was ready to make his return into the film world, but it was in markedly transformed conditions. The previous all-conquering presence of his star power had faded fairly significantly. Enthusiasm greeted Tony's return, but the industry had shifted over the years, and so had his career trajectory. His time spent as a monk rewarded him with inner peace, but cost him valuable time in the fast-moving world of entertainment. For Tony Jaa, The switch back to the world of action movies was not as clear-cut as many would have hoped it would be, and although he made his return, he never seemed to really attain the legendary status he had once held. Hollywood's call and the shift in career. When Tony Jaa returned from his time as a monk, Hollywood was already calling. His groundbreaking work in Ong-Bak and Tom Yum-gung had captured the attention of international filmmakers, and there was a growing demand to bring his unique martial arts style to the global stage. Hollywood producers saw in Tony a potential action star who could follow in the footsteps of Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, and Jet Li. His first major Hollywood opportunity came with Fast and Furious 7 in 2015, where he starred alongside Vin Diesel and Paul Walker. This was a high-profile project that introduced him to Western audiences, but despite the excitement surrounding his involvement, his role was relatively small. While he had memorable fight sequences, particularly his intense showdown with Paul Walker, fans quickly noticed that the film didn't fully utilize his abilities. Tony's Hollywood push continued with XXXX, Return of Xander Cage in 2017, where he joined an ensemble cast featuring big names like Vin Diesel and Donnie Yen. Again, there was hope that this would be a turning point for him, but similar to Fast and Furious 7, he wasn't given the spotlight he once commanded in his Thai films. The choreography was heavily stylized, and the raw, wire-free action that had made him famous was largely absent. Many of his fans felt that Hollywood didn't know how to showcase his talents properly, instead placing him in supporting roles where he was overshadowed by other action stars. The transition to Hollywood wasn't as smooth as it had been for Jackie Chan or Jet Li, and Tony struggled to break out in a way that allowed him to showcase his full potential. Language created one of the biggest challenges for Tony, who had honed his physical performance for several years. He confronted a new challenge, acting in English. By 2014, however, he was good enough to become interviewed in English, although many believed the language gap limited the roles offered to him. Hollywood action films often require charismatic, fast-making heroes who can pull off scenes heavy with dialogues, something Tony is not that good at. Unlike Jackie Chan, who used humor and found a more unique niche into Hollywood, or Jet Li, who took on roles that comprehensively matched his stoic and mysterious persona, Tony was generally consigned to characters that offered him few dialogues for the actions, thus compelling him to project himself more powerfully only by his fighting scenes. Another major thing that kept him from establishing his Hollywood career was his long struggle with Sahamongkol Film. The Thai studio was holding him in contracts for years, and when Tony finally freed himself in 2013, it was not without consequences. The studio tried to restrain him from playing a role as Tony Stark in Fast and Furious 7, and it even laid down a demand of $50 million for compensation. The legal tussle implied that Tony would not be regularly working in Thai productions, completely cutting him off from the very industry that made him famous. He continued to work in films such as Skin Trade, Never Back Down, No Surrender, and Triple Threat. However, none of these could compare with the fame that Ong-Bak brought him. He was given a lot of exposure, but Hollywood gave him neither creative freedom nor lead roles that would have ever established him as a global icon in martial arts. Despite Hollywood's call, the spark that once defined Tony Jaa's career was starting to fade, leaving fans wondering what went wrong, the legacy, and what could have been. Tony Jaa's impact on martial arts cinema is undeniable. When Ong-Bak was released, it changed the landscape of action filmmaking, influencing fight choreography and raising the bar for realism in stunt work. His explosive style, rooted in traditional Muay Thai, introduced audiences worldwide to a grittier, more brutal form of combat on screen. Even industry veterans like Donnie Yen admitted that Tony's emergence pushed them to refine their own action sequences. The raw, wire-free action he brought to the screen made him a standout star in a genre that was beginning to feel overly reliant on special effects and highly choreographed, dance-like fight sequences. For a time, Tony was considered the heir to Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan, with many believing he would be the one to lead martial arts cinema into a new era. However, as quickly as he rose, Tony's momentum slowed. His struggles with Sahamongkol film, the pressures of directing Ong-Bak 2, and his brief retreat to a monastery all played a role in derailing his career. The studio's tight grip on his contracts prevented him from capitalizing on the peak of his fame, and by the time he broke free in 2013, much of the industry had already moved on. While he did eventually break into Hollywood, he was never given the same creative control that Bruce Lee had in Hong Kong or Jackie Chan had in Hollywood. Unlike his predecessors, Tony wasn't able to shape his own narratives. He remained a performer in other people's visions, rather than a filmmaker who could define his own legacy. Unlike any of his martial arts predecessors, Tony Jaa had characters on a deeper level. While Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan created their own signature alter egos, transcending the fight scenes into the cultural sphere, Tony's characters faded into mere background for the action. In Ong-Bak, he had one of his few memorable lines, listing his name and where he came from. Tom Yum Goong was entirely centered on his search for an elephant that had been taken from him. Unlike Bruce Lee, who highlighted understanding why someone fights, Tony was more interested in the physical and extreme thrill than in emotional resonance. With such little substance in the storylines, it became difficult for Tony to connect with an audience outside his martial arts skills, which would hurt him in transitioning into other roles. Nevertheless, the influence of Tony Jaa, as a result of these disadvantages, will remain important in the action genre. His fight sequences are still constantly studied. His stunt designing inspires actions, and, of course, his legacy shines bright as one of the most well-recognized martial artists in film history. However, the question will always remain, if he had been given more of a free hand at the start of his career, could he have rightfully walked into the shoes of Bruce Lee? Could the world of Hollywood have properly nurtured these skills to turn him into a torchbearer for the next generation of action stars? Well, who knows? What is certain is that Tony Jaa may not have walked the way fans had always envisaged, but his contributions to martial arts cinema will forever be etched in history. What do you think? Did Tony Jaa deserve better, or did he find a different kind of success? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive, hit that like button, and if you love martial arts and action movie content, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. And don't go anywhere. Check out the next video on the screen for more shocking stories about the biggest names in action cinema. You won't believe what happened to this martial arts icon.